secure future for hard-working people. Here in Britain this week, we're bringing in the most important changes to our tax system for a generation, including cutting the corporation tax to 21% today. And I support Matteo's efforts to implement a package of ambitious reforms in Italy that will strengthen the economy there and encourage foreign investment and help hard-working Italians too. We want to increase the trading relationship between our two countries. It's already worth over £32 billion a year, and Britain is the leading European destination for Italian investors, up 5% last year, with new projects creating almost 1,800 new jobs here at home. But we believe we can do more to strengthen ties, particularly in the advanced engineering, energy and tech sectors. And we're already looking at how British businesses can seize the opportunity of the World Expo in Milan next year. We also want to work together to make the EU more competitive. Europe is falling behind the powerhouses in Asia and South America, and we need to match the difficult decisions we're taking at home with ambitious reforms in Brussels. Italy will be taking over the presidency of the EU later this year at a vitally important time. I know that Matteo wants to make growth and jobs a central theme of the Italian presidency, and today we've agreed the next Commission must put an unrelenting focus on driving growth across Europe, cutting red tape, completing the single market in energy, unleashing Europe's digital economy. These are all things that we agree about and discussed over our meeting. We also want to see these trade agreements with the rest of the world. A deal with the United States would be a massive prize, 190 billion euros a year to the European economy. That is equivalent to 545 euros for every family of four across Europe. Finally, we discussed the situation in Ukraine. We remain united in our condemnation of Russia's completely unacceptable behaviour in recent weeks. Russia needs to choose the path of de-escalation and dialogue. President Putin should accept that he is entering direct talks with the Ukrainian government. We share Secretary Kerry's view there should be no decisions about Ukraine without Ukraine at the table. In the long term, we want to do more to support the Ukraine government as they get to grips with their debts, they implement reforms, and they build a more prosperous future for the Ukrainian people. We also want to secure and diversify Europe's energy supply, and this is an area where we intend to do more work together in the coming months. So Matteo, a very warm welcome. We've had good discussions. We share many objectives for the future. I look forward to working with you in that future. And I don't know whether it's just me, but Prime Minister seems to be getting younger all the time.
Thank you, David. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for your invitation. Dawning Steet number 10 is a dream for everybody. So thank you so much also for the cooperation and the partnership. Credo che sia molto importante per l'Italia riaffermare l'importanza della relazione con il primo ministro David Cameron, con il Regno Unito, e credo che sia molto importante presentare un processo di riforme per il nostro Paese che sia la condizione per l'Italia per affrontare insieme le riforme di cui l'Europa ha bisogno. L'Italia deve essere più semplice, l'Italia deve migliorare se stessa, l'Italia deve fare la propria parte. Se l'Italia fa la propria parte, poi è in grado, assieme a tutti i partner e in particolar modo ai partner storici, di creare un'Europa diversa. I think we want a better Europe, not more Europe, a better Europe, a very violent Europe against the red tape of bureaucracy and with an idea of future for our children, not also for our fathers. Credo che sia stato molto importante condividere insieme le strategie sul Mediterraneo, sull'agenda digitale, sulle sfide energetiche e anche sul futuro dell'economia e della crescita, in un momento nel quale purtroppo abbiamo molto ancora da fare. Oggi commentavo con i giornalisti italiani, e poi ne abbiamo parlato con David, i numeri della disoccupazione. 2011 UK disoccupazione 8%, Italia 8,4%. 2013 UK 7%, Italia 12,3%. Cosa è successo? In questi 3 anni abbiamo perso troppa strada e adesso è arrivato il momento di rimettersi a correre con delle performance economiche che sono valide, possibili, e con una collaborazione e un sguardo insieme, condiviso con l'Unione Europea e con i nostri partner, che sia finalmente basato sulla crescita e non sulla burocrazia. David ha già detto tutto sull'Ucraina, ha già detto tutto sugli interessi comuni della nostra partnership. Credo che sia interessante sottolineare come saremo qua a Cardiff in Galles per il vertice NATO, e sono molto grato al Primo Ministro per aver accettato di svolgere il G7 dei Ministri dell'Energia in Italia prima del G7 di Bruxelles. Quindi sono molte le cose che condividiamo. Credo che sarà molto interessante se questa Europa diversa che vogliamo costruire potremo farla lottando contro la paura di chi ha paura di cambiare, ma per noi deve essere chiaro che non c'è Europa, non c'è una grande Europa senza la presenza del Regno Unito, senza la presenza di David Cameron, dei suoi concittadini. Quindi per noi è assolutamente fondamentale che in questo percorso complesso e complicato che si apre la presenza UK in Europa non è un qualcosa in discussione, è assolutamente fondamentale e cruciale per noi, e lavoreremo insieme, ne sono sicuro. Thank you so much, David, for your invitation.
Thank you, Matteo. I think we'll go to the BBC first.
James Roberts from BBC. Mr. Renzi, listening to you, it makes it sound as if Italy and you are an ally of David Cameron's in wanting fundamental reform to the European Union. Am I right? Does that mean that Italy wants to bring power back from the centre to Italy? Or is your vision of a reformed Europe completely different from the Prime Minister? And Prime Minister, can I ask you one question about Ukraine, which is, do you really share similar ideas about the level of pressure that should be applied to Moscow? Because those countries like Italy, which are much more energy dependent on outside sources, tend to be much less in favour of applying the sort of pressure on Moscow which could produce retaliation. And finally, to you, Prime Minister, many people are very angry about what they see as Royal Mail being sold on far too cheaply. Do you think people are right to feel angry that taxpayers feel that they were given a very poor deal by the government?
Thank you very much. Well, Matteo, perhaps you take the question first, and I'll...
Absolutely, yes. I think there is an alliance, not ideological, not confused, in the process of reform of Europe. But for us, for Italy, today is absolutely important start from ourselves. It's impossible in Italy fight against the bureaucracy of Brussels if we spend few days to conclude the process of administration in our country. It's impossible for us fight against the ideas of bureaucracy, of red tape in Brussels if our system is old. So for this reason, in this moment in Italy, it's absolutely important to change institutions, to change electoral law, to change the constitutions. Yesterday, maybe you know, we presented the reform, the law of reform of constitutions, very important because there is also the problems between central government and the regions, because change the role of Senate, because change the role of a part of politicians. So for us, it's possible. Speaking about reform in Europe, only if before we change ourselves, and this is the challenge in the second half of 2014, when Italy will lead the semester of European presidency. I think we can discuss with our partners and with David about the future of Europe.
Thank you very much. I'm sure there will be great allies in fighting the bureaucracy that Matteo has just referred to. It's brilliant for all countries in Europe to do that. To answer your questions very specifically, on Ukraine, of course different countries have different perspectives, but actually I think the EU has done well in that 28 countries came together and set out a tough, consistent and predictable set of measures to send a very clear message to Vladimir Putin about what had happened, why it was wrong, and what needed to happen next. And crucially, at that last EU Council, we agreed that the European Commission should start to draw up detailed plans for sanctions if Putin and Russia went further into eastern Ukraine. And I think that was a good step forward, and we agreed with that. Right across the EU, we agreed that. And we also agreed the important steps in terms of travel bans and asset freezes. So we all bring our different perspectives and our different histories and arguments, but actually we came together, and I think we set out a very consistent way forward and the right way forward for the EU. On the issue of energy dependence on Russia, we discussed this in our meeting. Again, different countries have different positions. Britain is very unreliant on Russian gas. We have a very small percentage of Russian gas coming into our system. But I think where there's agreement across Europe is that this is a long-term piece of work that has to be done. It is in all our interests, whether, frankly, we're reliant on Russian gas or not. It's in all our interests that all of Europe becomes less reliant, so we're a more resilient continent, so that when shocks take place, they don't affect the gas and oil prices so badly, and countries are able to make more independent decisions. So it's a long-term piece of work, but I'm delighted that Matteo is taking on the work of chairing the G7 energy ministers. The meeting will take place in Italy, because that's going to be the start of the process, as the EU will also take forward, of making us all more energy independent. That's going to mean building LNG terminals, it's going to mean new pipelines, it's going to mean more interconnections between different European countries, it's going to mean completing the single market in energy. These are good things in themselves, but they will also make us less reliant on Russian gas, and that will be strengthening for all of us in the long term. But a long-term piece of work, you can't expect results immediately on that one. On the Royal Mail, what I would say is this. A decade ago, this company was losing money, and people thought that it was in an unrecoverable situation. I would argue the British taxpayer has benefited in three ways from the changes we put in place and the privatisation that's taken place. There's the benefit of a sale of Royal Mail and the capital receipt. There's the benefit that this is now a profit-making company paying taxes into the exchequer. And thirdly, this is a successful company, doing well for Britain. So I think we're much better off with Royal Mail in the private sector, and I look forward to that work being completed. Second question.